All right. Big quarterback battle tonight in the NFL. Or maybe not. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Woo! The show is brought to you by your next John Deere tractor, Mississippi Ag, agup.com, 16 locations in the state of Mississippi. agup.com, John Deere, America's tractor. Want to welcome you in, say good morning. Show is also presented by the new, pre-owned or new Ram trucks at Mac Hike in Flowood, MacHikeFlowood.com. MacHikeFlowood.com. Pre-owned and new Ram trucks and Jeep Wranglers, plus a great selection of trucks and SUVs, all at Mac Hike in Flowood, MacHikeFlowood.com. Go and see those dudes and tell them we sent you. We want to welcome in our friend Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, the best, smartest website out there when it comes to NFL and college analytics and all kinds of good stuff. But Steve also played minor league baseball for the San Francisco Giants, made it to AAA. And, Steve, are you rooting for the Atlanta Braves or the L.A. Dodgers?
Yeah, it was in my Giants contract. I needed to root against the Dodgers
yes.
all time for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I'll take the Braves. And then I'm from New England, so I'm rooting for the Red Sox. But that has gone south these last couple nights.
It has. I'm hoping Hunter Renfroe, who's from Mississippi State, and the Red Sox can get back right. So I have to tell you this story. 10 years old in the 80s, Dale Murphy's playing for the Atlanta Braves, and this is when he's a two-time NL MVP. And I was obsessed with – he wore number 3. And I was obsessed with Dale Murphy as a kid. And then we've had him on the show like 5 or 6 times in the last few years, which has been like – I had his Topps, Fleer, and Donruss baseball card. And then years later, I have him on the show. Is that cool or what, Palazzolo?
Yeah, that's great. He was like everybody's hero, right? In the South with the Braves and on TBS and the whole thing. Yeah, Dale Murphy was awesome.
Yeah, he was. And he threw out the first pitch, Blake. It was either game 1 or game 2 before they went out to L.A. All right. That was my baseball. I just wanted to drop that. I watched 4.
I love it.
I watched 4 innings of baseball last night, and I dedicated that to Dale Murphy.
That's a record for Bo Bounce.
And my Braves won. And the night before, I watched a few innings, and they lost. So I'm glad that we're back on track at 3-1 in the series. Okay, Dak Prescott against the New England Patriots. It was rough early, but, man, he came back and made some big plays. How did Pro Football Focus grade Dak Prescott against the New England Patriots?
Yeah, it was one of the best games of the week, obviously. Everything he did, converting big 4th downs, big 3rd down throws. He had that 3rd and 21, deep in route to CeeDee Lamb that set up the field goal. And then the walk-off, the walk-off in overtime's always an interesting situation because I don't know if defenses sometimes get complacent and they feel like the offense is going to play for the field goal, but we've seen a couple times this year, Derek Carr, walk-off touchdown. We see it with Dak. We saw Kirk Cousins do it the other day, but Dak's throw was fantastic. So I thought he was great. The only 2 real mistakes, the end zone interception, which, it got tipped up, but he still kind of threw it into Justin Bethel's leverage. And then however you want to define the fumble at the goal line, those are the only 2 big plays, I think, working against Dak in that particular game. He was great.
And that Patriots secondary is not bad, right? It's pretty dang good.
They're okay. It's definitely not what they've been in the past. I know, the national TV game was against the Bucs, and they held their own. But I think that particular game, you've got the rain was a huge factor. The Bucs had a bunch of drops, and you've got the Brady factor. How much did Belichick put into that particular week? I think overall the Patriots haven't been great on the back end. But again, that's not to take anything away from Dak and what he did this weekend. Because look, when you're looking at the best quarterbacks in the league, those are the situations where you have to pass, you have to make a comeback, you have to go and move the ball, and it's all on you. Those are the situations where the best quarterbacks separate themselves. So no matter who you're facing, I think it's impressive, and loved what Dak did last Sunday to be able to win that game.
Yeah, what do y'all see and talk about as far as his command of the offense and what he's doing pre-snap? And, it looks like he just has great command of the offense, and now he and Kellen have been together for a few years. Looks like everything's ginning. What do you see?
Yeah, I see a lot of that. There's there's multiple things at play. I think the Cowboys, I say this every week, but they do a great job of incorporating all of their playmakers. It's nice that they've gotten the running game going, so they at least have that option, and that's where the work at the line of scrimmage comes in. You know, an effective run game, other than maybe Derrick Henry, who seems to, you know, be the exception to all these rules, but the run game is generally predicated on, you know, just winning the box counts, right? Just saying, look, there's 6 guys in the box and we have 6 blockers. That's our advantage. Let's run it. And, you know, I think Dallas has that tool in their, you know, in the toolbox now, right? To be able to run when they want to, pass when they want to, spread the field out, have playmakers everywhere, have a, you know, two-headed monster at running back. And Dak is just, you know, sitting in the pocket making accurate throws left and right. So that's why Dallas has one of the best offenses in the league.
Where do y'all rank Amari Cooper? As far as
I think he's a top 15 to 20 receiver. And I think, you know, the tough part about ranking receivers is when you start listing all of them, there's a lot of those guys. Then there's a cutoff. I mean, there's a cutoff, I think, between where you say, okay, this guy's the true number one. And there's probably 20, 25 of those true number ones, I'd say, around the league. I think Amari's one of them. I think CeeDee Lamb is one of them. So I think the Cowboys have 2 actual number ones. And the thing I love about Cooper and CeeDee really is just their route running, right? I mean, if you put them in man coverage, you feel pretty good about them getting open. Cooper doesn't have the same downfield ball skills as like a Julio Jones or, you know, DeAndre Hopkins or anything like that. But the name of the game is getting open. And I think Amari does that well. CeeDee does that well. And that's, you know, a quarterback's best friend is really just an open receiver to throw to.
What do you think CeeDee Lamb could be the next 3 to 5 years? Do you think he could live in that top 10, Steve?
Oh, yeah, I think he can get up there. I mean, I think it's probably a Keenan Allen plus, maybe, you know, maybe with a little bit more yards, yak ability. And CeeDee always has that, I don't want to say sneaky speed, because he wasn't a 4.3 guy, but he's got good speed that, you know, shows up on the field. He's got just a good feel for where defenders are and how to create after the catch. And again, he's a really good route runner. So yeah, I think there's a point where Cooper drops off a little bit, but CeeDee takes over. And I think, you know, that puts Dallas in good shape. And I have to rewind it a couple of years ago and you know, credit the Cowboys for getting CeeDee Lamb at 17. I know he was probably the best player on the board, but they had strong needs at corner and they probably wanted some other positions. But I really do think loading the field up with 3 to 4 legitimate targets is the way to win in today's NFL. And if you look at all the best offenses, that's what they have. The Bucs, the Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Chiefs just have the 2 stars. But that's how you win in today's NFL. So I love that move by the Cowboys a couple of years ago.
Man, I do too. I also like Cedric Wilson. I know he's
been great. Yeah, he's been really good. We actually had a second-round grade on him. I think he went in the 5th a couple of years ago. I think he's been a really good player filling in for Michael Gallup.
Wow, y'all had a second-round grade on Dak's wide receiver. What is he, their fourth? I guess when Gallup's healthy, he's their 4th, but right now he's their 3rd wide receiver, Steve?
Yeah, and he's been good. And we liked Gallup quite a bit coming out of Colorado State, too. I mean, there were points where we had him right up there with Calvin Ridley. And I think he's shown flashes of that. Ridley's probably better overall, but Gallup, again, he's been good, too, when healthy.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Steve Palazzolo joins us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, let's go to Miami. Do you think that they have – do you think they're done and they're moving off Tua?
I don't know if it's moving off Tua as much as they're attracted to the Deshaun Watson upgrade. And to be honest, if you take the off-field question marks aside, most teams would take the Deshaun Watson upgrade. That's why Miami was in the picture even this offseason, right? So I don't know if they're completely soured on Tua. He's barely had a chance to show what he has this year. But I also think what we've talked about on this show before, there are concerns, right? I mean, Tua, the arm strength doesn't look great at the NFL level. He's got some 2 or 3 just really poor decisions per game, seemingly. Even again in the Jaguars game last week, I think he played well. It was one of his better games at quarterback, but still a couple bad decisions in there, rough plays in there. It's like, man, come on, Tua, you can't play with that type of you can't play with a lack of discipline when you pretty much have to be an Alex Smith or a Teddy Bridgewater type. And I think that's what we're seeing from Tua, like a game manager type of player. And so perhaps Miami soured on him and just said, look, we want more, we want better. And I respect that. You know, I respect always find that quarterback, always
Sure.
you have that top 8 guy, go get it. And again, if Deshaun Watson's available and you're willing to incur that risk, I think that's, you know, a big factor in moving on from Tua, potentially.
Where do you think – all right, Baker Mayfield's hurt. It's not his throwing shoulder, but he's still hurt. It's a contract year. Case Keenum's going to go tonight. Where do you see this going, Steve?
I think it's a rough situation, I think, for Baker because he can, if he plays through it and it affects his performance, it affects his contract. I think if you're the Browns, maybe it becomes a blessing in disguise. Although I think if you're the Browns, you really just want more information on Baker. You know, you coming into this year, you would rather him go out there, be a borderline MVP candidate, you know, take advantage of the run game, the play action, the good play calling, decent group of receivers, and say, okay, now we feel confident in Baker Mayfield being a top 10 caliber quarterback year in, year out. So the Browns might not get that because of the injury. Baker might not get that because of the injury. But at the same time, you might get a franchise tag to buy more time for the Browns, or you can get that middle tier type of quarterback contract, which I think doesn't really exist. But, you know, will Baker take $25 million a year, $28 million a year, something that's probably more reasonable and manageable year in, year out from a, you know, APY standpoint? But we just get into this boat where it's like, well, the next quarterback up's going to make $40 million. That's what they're making. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to pay Baker 40. So where's the middle ground? This could open up the middle ground because he's got a play through injury and maybe the production won't be there.
Hey, okay. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone. Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com. He's also got a great NFL podcast with Pro Football Focus. Kyler Murray, are you surprised how this is playing out in Arizona with Kyler Murray?
No. I mean, like, Kyler was number 1 on our draft board a couple years ago as well. I thought he was a similar caliber. I mean, I think, you know, 3 years in a row, you had Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Joe Burrow. I think they were all similar caliber prospects where I thought they'd all become good franchise quarterbacks. So Kyler's done it a more conventional route where it's just he's gotten better every single year. And I always say you don't always get that at quarterback, right? The Josh Allen, he gets better every year. It just doesn't always happen that way. It's not a Madden video game, but Kyler Murray has done that. I mean, I think he's improved in key areas as far as throwing to the middle of the field, throwing at the intermediate level. They haven't had to tap into his rushing ability yet, but you always have that trump card with Kyler because he's so special with the ball in his hands. But I really think Arizona's done a great job, right? I mean, the same way Buffalo surrounded Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown a couple years ago. Now it's Emmanuel Sanders. That's how you do it, right? Arizona just added Rondale Moore, you know, A.J. Green, kicked Christian Kirk into the slot. You still have DeAndre Hopkins. You have a good run game that they've schemed up well the last couple of years. So there's just a lot of good pieces around Kyler in Arizona, and that has aided in his development. So, yeah, not terribly surprised that he's taken another step forward this year.
And I guess Cliff King, I mean, they could fall apart, but Cliff Kingsbury may be able to a guy who couldn't win in college may be able to stay in the league, right?
Yeah, unless they completely collapse, I think he sticks around the league. The thing, my question for Cliff was, how is he going to evolve the offense? I don't know that he necessarily has, but the offense has gotten better. You know, evolve in that, like, they don't like to move receivers around, or maybe they're not using as much motion, and so there's still probably room to grow in that area. But I think it just shows right now this year the power of the playmakers that they have, and you know that the same system they've been running can be successful when you just have playmakers everywhere.
Do you think Cliff Kingsbury gets in his Lamborghini every morning and drives to the Arizona Cardinals facility and goes, I can't believe I'm the head coach here?
Why? I mean, it's an offensive league, and he's, you know, the Mike Leach disciple, and it's
a good point.
The air raid and the whole deal. So, I mean, it's where the league's going. Get that offensive guy. I don't think he's an offensive genius or anything, but there are, spreading to throw is a new wave in the NFL, and not a bad way to play football.
All right.
Spread to throw and spread to run.
Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds Show, PFF.com. If you were a general manager and you could hire Sean Payton or Sean McVay today, who would you hire and why?
Sorry, who's Who? Sean Payton or Sean McVay?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think Sean Payton. I think McVay is close to winning me over, though. I think there was a point where McVay stalled out a little bit, and 2018 when they made the Super Bowl, there were points where they just could not adjust offensively, and I think he's done a better job. So I just have more evidence of Sean Payton being able to make do with less when Drew Brees has been hurt and everything. But there's still more to learn there. I'll take Sean Payton right now, especially because you guys are all Saints fans. But McVay's starting to win me over more and more because I do think he's evolving, and that's the key in the NFL. You're not just like a genius, and you don't just come in and do something that nobody else has seen. You might for a short period of time, but the staying power in the NFL is being able to adjust in the cat and mouse game. And McVay, I think, is just starting to learn that and doing a much better job of having answers at what defenses are throwing at him. And the other thing about McVay is he's done a really good job of fostering coaches around him, guys like Brandon Staley, and finding him. And so McVay's done a really good job, I think, of building up the staff around him as well.
All right, Mike, let's go Mike McCarthy. Your guy, Colin Cowherd, rips him all the time. Ripped him this week, said, I think the last 3 years McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers were together, they were 21 and 22. And post-McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers is 31 and 7. And he said the Cowboys' problem at the end of the day in January, if they make it through the whole, if they get into January, will be that Mike McCarthy will hold them back. Your thoughts?
I don't know if that record's right. I don't think they were 21 and 22 with Rodgers as quarterback. They've never been that bad, I don't think. I'll have to check on that. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's elements of that. I think LaFleur has stumbled into some luck his first year. I thought he was much better last year. The Packers were 13-3 both seasons, and I thought it was a real 13-3 last year, a fake one the year before. So take that for what it's worth. I think there are elements to McCarthy with the fourth down decision making and things like that could be better. So yeah, there's always that chance. But I think you could say the same thing about a guy like Bruce Arians last year. I don't think Bruce always makes the best in-game decisions. He'll make an emotional red flag toss and various things like that. But Arians was able to overcome it because if the rest of your talent is that good, you can. But I also would say maybe McCarthy's not going into games with a massive coaching advantage either. So it works both ways because the other part of, you have to give McCarthy credit for bringing in Dan Quinn and some of the defensive turnaround that Dallas has had. So if you want to blame him for Mike Nolan, you can credit him for Dan Quinn and the turnaround. So it goes both ways, but I do think in-game decision-making is definitely a place where Mike McCarthy can continue to improve.
Does it is somebody who crunches your company, Pro Football Focus, the site, all that? I mean, y'all are crunching numbers. Does it when y'all are in meetings, does it just blow your mind that we have NFL coaches with all the resources and staff around them that can't manage the clock, and yet they're one of the 32 head coaches in the league, Steve?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it really does. And it's not every team. I mean, again, we work with all 32 teams, and it is amazing that they are 32 different businesses, right? They all work completely differently. But they all have at least a support staff that knows these things and understands these things. The trouble in the NFL sometimes is just the communication. So if the head coach wants to be great at clock management, he will learn. He will study it. He will defer to the people around him. So like a Brandon Staley who goes out there, and you can question going for 4th and 1 on his own 19 and all that stuff. But he's completely educated on what the numbers say because he's chosen to be. So I think that would be the difference. Every team has these support staffs to get them to where they need to go. But some head coaches embrace it and said, I'm going to know this stuff inside and out. I'm going to trust my people. I'm going to trust the numbers. Because, again, it's just making a whole bunch of blackjack moves, right? You just continue to play the odds, and hopefully you win over time. Sometimes you don't. But, I mean, that's the key. And, some head coaches are just more open to feedback than others.
Okay. That's mind-boggling to me. I mean, you've got everything you need.
It does blow my mind. Yeah, it does blow my mind sometimes.
All right.
But it's their job and their decision. It's like, well, I want to see my decision. So that's how they lean. Sometimes.
That's a good point. The interview today is brought to you by Bell's Two-Hearted Ale, delicious beer. We're joined by Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. Blake, you've got a question for your man crush. Go ahead.
Yes. Steve, Patrick Mahomes has 8 interceptions through the first 6 weeks. He had
Yikes.
6 all last season. What are you seeing from Mahomes? Is he different? Is the offense different? Is this just a regression of last year he would have had some more if balls tipped a different way? What are you seeing through the first, I guess, quarter and a half of the season from Mahomes and the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's bad luck. I mean, it's the bottom line. It's just bad luck versus last year. I mean, there was a point last year where I was getting angry that Mahomes was getting Mahomes at one point had 25 touchdowns and 1 interception. And he was coming off a good game, and I was like, he's going to get MVP hype because somebody's going to cite this and say he's got 25 touchdowns, 1 interception. And at the time, by our numbers, he had like 10 or 12 turnover-worthy plays. Every time he threw the ball to the defense, they dropped it or whatever it was. So he was getting incredible luck last year. This year, it's gone the other way. He's got the interception last week off of Tyreek Hill's hands, and he had some ugly ones in there. He had one of the worst plays of the season, drops a pass, drops a snap, and just throws it up under pressure. It was really bad. But overall turnover-worthy plays for us this year, he's only got 7, and he's got the 8 interceptions. So it's like the luck just happens to be going the other way for Mahomes. So I don't think much is different other than when the Chiefs are turning it over, it's ugly, and it happens to be an opposing team's territory, and it hurts a lot. So I think there's just a lot of the balls bouncing the other way this year so far for Mahomes.
Wow. All right, we'll leave it there. Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. I'm going to throw this out. I know you haven't been able to do a deep dive into college, but what if Spencer Rattler, who has now been benched, is maybe like the first player ever to be benched but also drafted in the first round of the NFL? Wouldn't that be nuts?
It could absolutely happen. It could absolutely happen. I don't know if NFL teams are going to feel too comfortable with. The one guy at the company described him as at our company described him as a Gen Z quarterback. Like he's just out there, never playing within structure. He's just running around doing his own thing, like Mahomes on steroids, really. I don't know how comfortable the NFL is going to be with that playing style, but he's certainly talented, and it could actually happen where he gets drafted high. This quarterback class, though, other than your guy Matt Corral. The quarterback class looks a little questionable, though, this year.
Yeah. And I just want you to know that, I said this to you several months ago, that Matt Corral, at the end of the day, he will be the first quarterback taken. It's happening.
He might be. I think Malik Willis is in the discussion. We'll see how much Kenny Pickett hype, shows up the next couple months, but it's ugly right now, I think.
What's that steakhouse up there, Joe Ruby's or something in the Natty?
Jeff Ruby's.
Jeff Ruby's. Yeah. I'm betting you a steak. Well, you don't have to bet the other side of it, but I'm betting you a steak dinner that Corral's the first quarterback taken.
All right, I'll tell Jeff because he's a Twitter follower, so I'll tell Jeff we'll be over there soon.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I went to the one in Louisville. It was phenomenal. All right, buddy, be good.
Oh, it's great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. He joined us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Bell's Two-Hearted Ale. Delicious, delicious American IPA. We want you to try it. Let us know what you think. All right? Let me say it again. Bell's Two-Hearted Ale. Hour number 3 coming up. At the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS.